The lilies hit her first. Their sweetness clung to the air like syrup, thick enough to taste, thick enough to press against the back of Leora's throat as she stood before the altar. The cathedral lights shimmered above her, catching on every silver sequin of her gown until she felt less like a bride and more like a mirror held up to the world, reflecting everything, revealing nothing. Her hands trembled inside her crystal-dusted sleeves. She curled her fingers, pretending it was only nerves and not the quiet ache she'd been ignoring for months. Calder stood beside her, pristine as ever in his white tuxedo jacket and velvet lapels, looking like a man born to be adored. His smile fixed on the guests, on the cameras, on the spectacle he believed this wedding should be. Not once did that smile turn toward her with softness. Not once did she feel like this moment belonged to her. The officiant cleared his throat. "We gather today to join." Leora's pulse fluttered like trapped wings. She forced herself to lift her gaze toward Calder. His gold watch caught the light as he adjusted his cuff, the flash sharp, arrogant, confident. The world around her narrowed to the sound of her heartbeat and the faint crackle of the microphone. "Liora," the officiant said gently, "do you?" But before her vow could form, the world cracked open. A thunderous slam shook the chapel doors. Gasps rippled through the rows of guests. Someone screamed. Someone else dropped a phone that clattered across the marble floor. Liora jerked her head toward the entrance. A man stood framed in the doorway, breathing hard, shoulders heaving, dust clinging to a navy suit that looked as though it had been dragged through years of darkness and defiance. His shoes were scuffed, laces mismatched. His jaw bore a scar she didn't remember, and yet she knew him. Her heart stopped. No, no, it couldn't be. But the scent of lilies sharpened, the world blurred at the edges, and the echo of that door slam beat against her skull as the man stepped inside. Jalen. Her husband, her dead husband. "I'm alive," he said, voice raw, trembling with urgency. "Liora, I'm alive." Every bone in her body turned to ice. Jalen, Jalen, who she buried. Jalen, whose death certificate she'd touched with trembling fingers. Jalen, whose ghost had lived in her dreams long after her tears dried. She swayed, breath shattering in her chest. "This can't be real. I buried him. I mourned him. How can he be standing here?" Her knees weakened. Calder caught her elbow too tightly, painfully, but she barely felt it. Because Calder wasn't looking at her. He was staring at Jalen, not confused, not shocked, not grieving, but terrified. A flicker so small most people would miss it passed across Calder's face. A split second of recognition, of guilt, of something dark, and that's when Leora's stomach dropped. Why is Calder afraid? Jalen took another step into the chapel. "Liora, please don't marry him. You don't understand what he..." "Security," Calder barked, his voice cracking like a whip. "Get him out of here, now." But the guards hesitated. Guests were whispering now, frantic and hungry for scandal. Phones bristled like a sea of eyes, recording everything as the impossible unfolded. "Liora," Jalen said again, voice breaking. "I didn't leave you, I never left you." Her entire world tilted. Because that voice, the one she used to fall asleep to, the one that promised her forever, the one she mourned until she stopped recognizing herself, was real. He was real. Alive. Her breath came in sharp, fractured bursts. The cathedral walls pressed in on her, shimmering lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of confusion and terror. Calder leaned down, whispering through clenched teeth, "Do not embarrass me. Stay quiet. Stay quiet, just like always, just like every argument." Just like every time he made her doubt her own mind. Her head spun. Jalen took another step. "Liora, listen to me." "Calder lied to you." A gasp shot through the room. Calder lunged forward. "Enough," but Liora didn't hear them anymore. All she heard was the roar of blood in her ears, the echoing slam of those doors, and the voice she had once loved more than anything in the world. Her vision flickered, her legs buckled, and the world went dark. Before we continue, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to bring you more fascinating stories. When consciousness came back, it did so in pieces, like soft whispers pushing through thick fog. She tasted metal on her tongue. Her heartbeat pounded faintly from somewhere deep within her chest. A hand touched her cheek, warm, familiar, gentle. "Liora," someone murmured. She forced her eyes open. Calder, hovering over her. His smile tight, strained, a performance for the small crowd of concerned guests hovering nearby. "There you are," he said softly, too softly. You fainted. Must be overwhelming, sweetheart. Weddings often are, sweetheart. She nearly flinched. Behind Calder, chaos was brewing. Staff hustled nervously. Guests whispered in frantic circles. The chapel pews buzzed with panic and curiosity. And at the far end, being blocked by two overwhelmed guards, Jalen. Their eyes met. His were filled with desperation, apology, and something she wasn't ready to name. Calder, she whispered, her throat raw. What is happening? His expression hardened for the briefest second before smoothing into false calm. Nothing you need to worry about. That man is disturbed, Liora. He's here to ruin our day. I'll handle it. Handle it. The same tone he used when he dismissed her feelings, her questions, her grief, but something had shifted inside her. Something cracked open the moment she saw fear flicker across Calder's perfectly composed face. She pushed herself upright, ignoring the dizziness swirling behind her eyes. I need to speak to him, she whispered. Calder's jaw clenched. Absolutely not. Her heart pounded. Calder, he looked like Jalen. He is not Jalen. Calder snapped too quickly, too forcefully, her breath hitched. Calder inhaled sharply, smoothing his expression as though pulling a curtain back over his fury. He is an imposter, Liora. He wants attention. You fainted because he scared you. Don't let him win. But as Calder spoke, Leora's eyes drifted back to the man in the navy suit, the dust, the scar, the trembling in his hands. That wasn't an imposter. That was pain. That was truth, her voice shook. Calder, how would he know my name? A guess. Then how does he look exactly like? Enough. Calder grabbed her wrist, fingers digging into her skin. The pressure made her breath hitch. A ripple of the past, of his anger, of the nights he cornered her into silence, shuddered through her memory. He's more worried about embarrassment than my sanity. What has he been hiding? The thought chilled her. Jalen shouted from across the aisle, Liora, don't let him isolate you again. Again. The word detonated inside her. She tried to stand. Calder held her down. A hush fell over the guests. And in that crushing silence, Liora realized something with devastating clarity. Whoever that man in the doorway was, whatever impossible truth he represented, Calder didn't want her to hear him. Which meant she needed to, even if it destroyed the beautiful, shimmering world Calder had built around her. The world that suddenly felt like a cage. She looked him dead in the eye. Let me go. Calder froze because this wasn't a request. It was the first crack in the walls he had spent years building around her. And his expression, tight, furious, terrified, told her one thing. He knew those walls were about to fall. The private room smelled like cold marble and wilting roses. Someone must have dragged an arrangement in here earlier. Petals lay scattered across the floor like fallen pieces of a celebration that no longer knew what it was celebrating. Liora paced, her gown trailing behind her like a shimmering ghost. Every breath scraped painfully along her ribs, and every sound from the chapel outside made her flinch. The moment the doors slammed shut behind her, the echo had followed her into this room, refusing to let her forget. Jalen is alive, breathing, speaking, reaching for her. She pressed her hands to her temples, trying to hold her world together as it fell apart. The overhead chandelier buzzed faintly, a static crackle that only worsened the pounding in her skull. The marble beneath her feet felt like ice, even through the thin soles of her shoes. Her heart had not stopped shaking since she saw that scar cutting down the edge of Jalen's jaw. This is impossible. Unless, no, she cut off the thought before it could finish. The door burst open. Calder. He entered like a thunderstorm, suit immaculate, hair perfect, expression carved from rage disguised as concern. He closed the door behind him with a snap, sealing them inside. Liora. His voice dripped with controlled calm. Sit down, you're not well. Her spine stiffened, the single sentence snapping back years of habits. Obey, stay quiet, don't make a scene. She swallowed. I'm fine. You fainted, he countered sharply. In front of everyone. Her fingers curled. Because I saw a dead man walk into our wedding. Calder inhaled through his nose, a tight, irritated breath. He is not Jalen. He looked like him. He is. He knew my name. A lucky guess. Calder slammed his hand down on the table beside her. The crack made her body jolt. Liora, stop letting this madness get inside your head. Madness. The word hit her like a slap. He moved closer, his cologne wrapping around her sharp, suffocating. The scent she once found mature and comforting now felt like a noose tightening around her throat. He is delusional, Calder insisted. Or dangerous, or both, you're overwhelmed. I told security to remove him and they will. Liora shook her head. But nothing. Calder stepped closer. Too close. Our wedding is falling apart because some unstable man decided to flip a table in the middle of the ceremony. She blinked, the table flipped. No, she remembered that wrong. The table didn't flip, people screamed. Phones fell, the doors slammed, but there was no table. Calder placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing. Look at me. She forced herself to. His eyes were steady, the kind of calm that made her doubt herself. That was Calder's talent. He didn't yell when he wanted to break her. He edited her reality until she couldn't trust her own memory. You fainted, he repeated slowly. And when you woke up, you were confused. That's all this is. Her chest tightened not from fear but from familiarity. This wasn't the first time he'd rewritten an event to erase her perspective, but never had he done it this quickly, this desperately. His thumb stroked her shoulder. You're anxious, that's normal. You've been through a lot. Liora swallowed, voice small. Calder, what if he really is Jalen? Calder froze. Rage flickered beneath the surface before he smoothed it away. If he is Jalen, he said slowly, why didn't the hospital call you? Why wasn't there a body? Why did he vanish after the crash? Why show up today of all days? Leora's eyes filled. I don't know. Exactly, he said sharply. You don't know, but I do. He's lying. How can you be so sure? Silence, a dangerous silence. Calder broke eye contact for a second too long, then plastered on a smile that didn't touch his eyes. Because no one could survive that crash. Leora's breath hitched. He wasn't there. He wasn't at the crash site. He wasn't allowed to see the body. He wasn't. She felt something inside her tilt. Calder stepped forward again, brushing her hair back from her face. His fingers were careful, gentle, fake. Liora, think. Why would a stranger come dressed in a filthy suit, looking like a runaway, and claim to be your dead husband on the very day you're marrying a wealthy public figure? Her eyes lifted to his. Because he's desperate. Exactly, Calder said quickly. He wants money, attention, sympathy. Maybe he saw pictures of you online. Maybe he recognized the wedding venue and took a chance. Her throat tightened, but he knew details. He knew nothing, Calder said too fast. He said nothing. You fainted before he could speak. Her pulse stumbled. That was wrong. Very wrong. Jalen had said Calder lied. He had said I never left you. He had said what more she tried to remember. The fog of shock made everything blurry. Calder's hand slid down to her forearm, firm but feigning affection. Liora, I'm going to need you to trust me. We can recover this day. We can still get married, but you must stop letting that man in your head. His grip tightened, her skin burned, and you must not embarrass me again. There it was, the real voice, the one he used behind closed doors. The one that pulled the strings of her life without ever admitting he held them. Her breath quivered. Calder, I'm scared. He softened on the surface. Of him, she didn't answer, because she wasn't sure who him meant anymore. Calder leaned in, whispering into her hair, I will protect you, I always have. Her lungs constricted. He always said that, usually right after hurting her. The chandelier crackled overhead, a faint electric hiss as if the universe itself were warning her. She pulled slightly away. Calder's grip followed, not loosening. Let go, she whispered. No, he answered too calmly. Not until you understand. She finally met his eyes and saw it. The calculation, the control, the fear that she might believe Jalen, the fear that she might ask questions. The fear that she might remember she once had a life before Calder. What if I need a moment alone? She whispered. You don't. His voice deepened. You need me. She swallowed a sob. Calder, Liora. He cupped her face, forcing her eyes up to his. That man is lying. You will ignore him, and we will go back out there and finish what we started. Her stomach twisted. What we started. As if the wedding were a business deal. As if her whole future were a transaction he had already paid for. As if she were a thing he owned. Her hand dropped to her side, fingers brushing the cold floor. The marble was freezing, shocking, like a jolt back into her body. He's more worried about embarrassment than my sanity. What has he been hiding? A soft knock came at the door. Calder stiffened. Do not move. He walked to the door, cracked it open. A staff member whispered, Sir, that man is still asking for the bride. Leora's heartbeat surged. Calder hissed under his breath, remove him, and make sure no one records this. Her breath stilled. Make sure no one records this, not keep Liora safe, not call the police, not confirm his identity, just hide it. Her chest tightened painfully. Calder turned back to her, forcing a smile. Everything's under control. Something inside her snapped. No, she whispered. It's not. His smile dropped. What did you say? Liora rose, slowly, hands shaking, gown shimmering like broken glass beneath the chandelier. I need to speak to him, alone. No, Calder said flatly. It's not up to you. His jaw clenched. You're hysterical. I'm not. You are. I'm not. The marble floor felt ice cold under her, grounding her. Two truths lived in her bones now. Jalen was alive, and Calder was lying. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter but stronger. Let me go, Calder. His face twisted in a flash of fury he couldn't hide fast enough. And in that expression, sharp, raw, frightened, Liora finally saw him clearly. He was not protecting her. He was protecting himself. And whatever he feared was standing in the chapel wearing a navy suit and a scar on his jaw. Her breath trembled as she whispered, I'm done being afraid of you. Calder stepped forward. Liora, don't make me. A louder knock jolted them both. Miss Dane, a voice called. Someone is insisting you need to hear the truth. Jalen, her heart lurched. Calder's eyes darkened. For the first time in years, Liora lifted her chin and chose herself. The hallway outside the private room still hummed with panic, but inside, the silence had thickened, tight, suffocating, electric. Liora stood near the far wall, pulse fluttering beneath her skin like a trapped bird. Her gown shimmered faintly under the cold chandelier light, every crystal trembling with her breath. Calder closed the door behind him with deliberate slowness, the latch clicking like a warning. Liora, he said softly, we need to talk. His voice wasn't the explosive anger she'd felt pushing at the edges in the last chapter. No, this was the version of him she feared more. Controlled, cold, calculating. The kind of calm that never actually calmed anything. It only coated the danger in silk. He stepped closer, adjusting the cuffs of his white tuxedo jacket, the velvet lapels catching the light. His gold watch flashed, a harsh, arrogant glint that forced itself into her eyes. Come sit, he said, gesturing to the small sofa pushed against the wall. You're overwhelmed, anyone would be. Liora didn't move, he sighed, the sound dripping with impatience. Liora, the faint scent of his cologne drifted toward her, sharp, spicy, suffocating. He knew she hated it, but he loved it. It made him feel expensive, she swallowed. I'm not sitting. His jaw tightened before smoothing into a neutral expression. He crossed the room at a measured pace, stopping only when he stood directly in front of her. The distance between them vanished, replaced by the sensation of being cornered. He lowered his voice. That man is a threat, her heart hammered. He's not a threat, he's lying, Calder snapped, then softened again so quickly it made her head spin. He's confused, probably mentally unstable. Liora's gaze didn't waver. He called my name, a guess. He looked like Jalen, a coincidence. He knew things, he knew nothing, Calder interjected sharply, stepping even closer. She felt the heat of his frustration radiating off him. Liora, your grief is clouding your judgment. You want him to be Jalen, you want closure, that makes you vulnerable, she blinked. Vulnerable to what? Manipulation, Calder answered immediately, taking her hand. His grip was firm, too firm. People prey on widows, Liora. You're not the first woman to be targeted by a scam artist. He probably saw your picture online, recognized the wedding, knew it would be chaotic enough to try something drastic. Her stomach twisted. That doesn't explain the scar, or the suit, or, it explains everything, Calder said, tightening his hold, because he's desperate. Her voice grew quiet. He seemed terrified. He's acting. Calder, I don't think, Liora. His voice dropped to a low, threatening whisper. Stop. The air stilled, she froze. That tone, the one only she ever heard, slid down her spine like a blade. Calder inhaled, then smiled softly as though nothing dark had escaped him. Sweetheart, think. If Jalen were truly alive, he wouldn't have waited years to come back, and he certainly wouldn't show up like that. His lip curled faintly. A filthy suit, wild hair, a face full of scars. No, Jalen would have come to you the moment he woke up. Liora's throat constricted. Maybe he couldn't. Could. Calder repeated, amusement flickering in his eyes. Couldn't find his wife, the love of his life, Liora, really. She stepped back, Calder followed, every instinct in her screamed to stop talking, but the words broke free anyway. He said you lied. The air went razor-sharp, Calder's jaw locked. She had hit something buried, something dangerous. His voice came out slow. What did you just say? Liora's hands trembled. He said he didn't leave me, and that you lied. Calder's expression didn't change, but the room felt colder. So now you're choosing him. I'm not choosing anyone, she whispered. I just want answers, he scoffed. You want answers from a stranger who crashed our wedding? He's not a stranger, Liora shot back, emotion cracking through her voice. He's my husband. That was the first moment Calder dropped the mask. For a single, fleeting second, something primal flashed in his eyes, fear, anger, calculation slashed open into something unmasked and ugly, then it was gone, he forced a laugh. Liora, please, your husband is dead, we grieved him together, you grieved him for years. And now on the day you're supposed to start a new life you want to believe a fairy tale instead, he cupped her cheek. You're smarter than this, she pulled away, his hand froze midair. I need to talk to him, she whispered again. No. Her head lifted, why not? Because I said no, she swallowed hard. Calder, he stepped forward so fast she didn't have time to move. His hand closed around her forearm, fingers digging into the sequined sleeve of her gown. I said, he hissed softly, no, her breath caught. Pain radiated beneath his grip. He noticed and tightened. You're confused, emotional, overwhelmed, he murmured, masking his control beneath fake tenderness. You're making rash decisions. I'm trying to protect you. Protect me. Her chest tightened. He used that word like armor, wrapping harm in concern. Calder, her voice broke. You're hurting me. He didn't let go. You think I'm going to let you walk out there and talk to a man who's trying to humiliate us, who's trying to destroy everything I've built for us? He leaned closer until she could smell the metallic tang of his stress. Do you know what people will say about us, about you? Leora's heart dropped. This wasn't about her safety, this was about his reputation. He loosened his grip slightly, but only enough to maintain the illusion of gentleness. You're fragile right now, I know you forget things when you're overwhelmed, you misremember. His smile was almost sympathetic. It's why you fainted. Something fractured inside her, misremember, faint, fragile, these were the same words he used whenever they fought. Whenever she questioned him, whenever she had proof he couldn't deny, her pulse quickened. I didn't misremember, Calder's eyes hardened. Yes, you did. No. Her voice shook, I remember everything. His nostrils flared, the chandelier crackled above them, the faint electricity humming like warning static. Calder's voice turned low again. Liora, listen carefully, I don't care what he said, he's a liar, he's here to ruin us, and you are not going to give him that power. She pulled her arm back again, he held tighter. Let go. Her voice came out thin but deliberate, he didn't. She looked into his eyes and saw it clearly now, not love, not concern, not fear of losing her, fear of losing control. Her skin burned beneath his grip. Her breath grew shallow, he leaned in, his lips brushing her ear, voice slicing like ice. If you walk out there, Liora, you will regret it. The room spun, her heart hammered against her ribs, loud enough she swore he could hear it. The scent of his cologne thickened, suffocating every breath she took. Then a knock rattled the door, Calder froze. A staff member's voice trembled from the hallway. Sir, he refuses to leave. He says he needs to speak to her. He says she deserves the truth. Truth, her pulse surged. Calder's expression fractured, fear, rage, calculation all clashing at once. He turned back to her, voice low and dangerous. Do not go near him. Liora stared at him, really stared. At the man she planned to marry, at the man who claimed to love her, at the man who was more afraid of her hearing words than of anything else in the world. Her voice came out trembling but unmistakable. I need to hear him, Calder, he shook his head. Liora, but she took a step back, away from him. For the first time since this wedding began, Calder didn't follow, it stunned him, stilled him, as if he didn't recognize this version of her. She reached for the doorknob, his voice dropped to a near growl. Liora, don't you dare, she opened the door anyway. The hallway flooded with noise, gasps, whispers, the distant hum of the crowd, but none of it mattered. Because there, held back by two security guards, eyes desperate and locked onto hers, stood Jalen. His navy suit torn, dust streaking the sleeves. His jaw scarred. His chest rising and falling as though this moment was the breath he'd been fighting years to reach. And when their eyes met, everything inside Liora broke open. Not fear, not confusion, recognition. Behind her, Calder whispered like a warning, Liora, come back. But she didn't turn, not this time, not again. For the first time in years, she stepped toward the truth, and away from the man who feared it. Hallway felt like a living creature, breathing, whispering, shifting around her as she stepped toward Jalen. Conversations crackled like electricity. Phones hovered in trembling hands. Someone gasped her name. Another whispered, isn't that her dead husband? Liora heard none of it clearly. Everything was muffled beneath the pounding rush of her pulse. Liora, Jalen said, voice hoarse, raw from shouting. Please, just talk to me. The security guards flanking him looked torn between obedience and confusion. They'd never trained for a moment like this. No one had. Liora opened her mouth, but a hand clamped onto her arm. Calder, he didn't yank her, not yet, but the grip was unmistakable. Possessive, warning. His voice slid close to her ear, low enough for only her to hear. "You're making a spectacle." She froze, the hallway spun. Guests pressed closer, their perfume mixing with the heavy scent of lilies drifting from the chapel. The marble floor gleamed beneath their feet, reflecting fractured pieces of faces. Shocked, curious, hungry, Calder stepped forward, positioning himself between her and Jalen. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced loudly, his voice controlled but vibrating with tension, "the wedding will continue shortly. There's been a misunderstanding." A murmur rippled through the hall. Misunderstanding. As if her world hadn't just been cracked open in front of them all, Calder turned to her with a smile stretched thin as wire. "Let's go back inside." Now, Leora's throat tightened. "I'm not going back in there." Calder's fingers dug into her arm. "Yes, you are." Jalen stepped forward instinctively, only for the guards to press him back, their hands on his chest. His voice cracked with desperation. "Leora, listen to me, he's dangerous." Calder snapped, "Shut him up." The guards hesitated. Too many eyes were on them. Calder plastered on a charming laugh. "A man in distress," he said loudly. "That's all. Please, everyone, give us privacy." But the guests didn't move. If anything, the crowd swelled, the murmur thickening like a storm gathering pressure. Leora felt all of them staring at her, judging, whispering, deciding who she was, a bride caught between two men, a liar, a spectacle. Calder leaned in, whispering sharply, "You're embarrassing yourself." Something in her chest cracked, embarrassing herself. He always framed her suffering as her fault, her grief. Public inconvenience, her confusion, personal failure. Her needs, unreasonable demands. A faint metallic taste coated her tongue, the taste of rising panic mixing with something else, shame. A shame that wasn't hers to carry but had been handed to her like a wedding bouquet. Calder's grip tightened. "Come on," he ordered quietly, "before you humiliate yourself further." Leora's breath shook. Behind Calder, Jalen's eyes were locked onto hers, wide with pleading anguish. "Leora," he whispered, "don't let him take you." Her heart stuttered. Calder turned on Jalen. "You," he said sharply, voice slicing through the room, "need to leave." But Jalen didn't back down. "She deserves the truth, Calder." Leora's stomach clenched. There it was again, that flicker across Calder's expression. A flash of something sour, venomous, fearful. He recovered instantly, slipping into his polished mask. "The truth," he repeated, chuckling humorlessly. "You're a delusional man crashing a wedding." Jalen strained against the guards, desperation pushing through every inch of him. "Leora, please." He staged everything. The accident, my disappearance. Calder barked, "Throw him out." The guards shifted uneasily. One whispered, "Sir, people are recording." Calder's jaw twitched, phones, everywhere, dozens of angles, dozens of witnesses, dozens of lives waiting to feast on scandal. He couldn't explode, not here. Not now, so he chose his favorite weapon, humiliation. He turned to Leora, voice loud enough to echo down the corridor. "She isn't thinking clearly," he announced. "My bride has been fragile for years. Grief has affected her." Leora froze. The words slid across the crowd like oil. A woman near the back whispered, "Oh my God, is she unstable?" Another murmured, "Poor Calder." Calder placed a hand on her shoulder, gentle, sympathetic, performative. "It's all right, sweetheart. No one blames you, you've been through so much." Her cheeks burned, her lungs constricted, her vision blurred. He was weaponizing her pain in front of strangers. Again. Galen choked on a breath. "Don't let him shame you. He did this to you." Calder laughed lightly. "Did what exactly?" Brought stability to a grieving widow, provided for her, carried her through trauma. His voice carried the perfect blend of pity and indignation. The crowd lapped it up, Leora's fingertips numbed. Her breath trembled in uneven waves. "He's turning them against me, just like he always does. I'm done letting him." Calder turned to the guests. "Please, everyone, give us a moment. Leora needs rest. Her mind, her mind." The implication hit her like a blow. He was painting her as unstable, emotionally weak, delusional, and the worst part, people were nodding, sympathizing, believing. Leora's throat tightened painfully. "Calder, stop." But Calder didn't hear her, not really. He heard a woman who needed to be controlled, directed, managed. He stepped closer to the guards and lowered his voice just enough that only she and Jalen could hear him. "You're ruining everything, Jalen," he whispered darkly. "You should have stayed dead." Jalen recoiled as if struck. Calder turned back toward Leora, expression polished to perfection. "Shall we?" She couldn't breathe, because Calder had just said it, not a metaphor, not an implication, a confession, a mistake, the truth slipping through his arrogance. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. Jalen whispered, "He did it, Leora. He admitted it." Her knees wobbled. She looked at Calder. He stared back with that flawless smile, that impeccable tuxedo, that polished gold watch shining like a warning. But for the first time she saw through it all. He was unraveling, and she, shaking, heartbroken, terrified, was the thread. A small, trembling voice escaped her. "I need air." Calder stepped toward her. "You need me." And then the worst thing happened. The crowd parted, lights burst. A camera crew from the venue, mistakenly drawn in by the chaos, stepped forward, filming. Guests turned, phones angled like a forest of predatory eyes. Now it wasn't just whispers, it was exposure. Calder's smile froze. A bead of sweat slid down his temple. His carefully built facade trembled. He grabbed Leora's wrist again. "We're leaving," he hissed. Before she could react, he yanked her forward, dragging her toward the chapel doors. The room gasped. Jalen shouted, "Let her go!" The guards wavered, but Calder didn't stop. He dragged Liora back into the chapel, toward the altar, toward the ceremony, toward the lie. She stumbled but caught herself, breath-breaking, heart-shattering. Inside the chapel, the guests watched them return, tension thick as smoke. The room buzzed with cruel curiosity. Calder forced a smile, arm wrapped around her waist like a clamp disguised as affection. "My apologies, everyone," he announced. "My bride is simply overwhelmed. We'll continue." Continue, as if her entire world had not just been ripped open in front of them all. As if she hadn't just heard the words, "You should have stayed dead," from the man she was about to marry. Leora's lungs screamed for air. Her vision swayed, her heart cracked in her chest. Inside her mind, she whispered the truth she could no longer ignore. "He's turning them against me. Just like he always does. I'm done letting him. Not tomorrow, not later, not quietly. Now." And when Calder lifted her trembling hand for the officiant to resume, Liora did the hardest thing she had ever dared to do. She pulled her hand away. In front of everyone, the room erupted. Calder froze. And Liora felt, for the first time in years, a spark of freedom burn through her fear. The quiet room smelled of dust and old books. An unused bridal lounge tucked behind the chapel, dimly lit by a single lamp. Liora stepped inside first, trembling, her silver gown brushing softly against the carpet like a whisper. Her breath came in shallow bursts. She wasn't sure if she'd walked here or floated. Everything since pulling her hand away from Calder felt unreal. The door clicked shut. Jalen stood a few feet behind her, hesitant, like she might vanish if he approached too quickly. The exhaustion on his face seemed etched into the very bones of him. The creases in his navy suit, the dirt smudged along the cuff, the thin scar along his jaw, each detail was louder than any words he could speak. For a long moment, neither of them said anything, just breathing, just existing in a space neither of them ever thought would be shared again. Liora finally turned. Her heart squeezed painfully. You're really here," Jalen swallowed. "I'm here." The lamp flickered slightly, casting a soft, shaky glow across his face. It highlighted everything she'd lost: his warmth, his gentleness, the steady presence that used to anchor her when life felt too heavy. She stepped closer, but her voice cracked. "I buried you, Jalen, I buried you." His eyes glimmered with something broken. "I know." The faint scent of dust clung to him, as if the years he'd survived were still wrapped around him like an invisible coat. Reached into his pocket with trembling fingers and pulled out something small, a metal pendant she thought she'd lost the night he died. Their pendant, the one she'd given him on their first anniversary. She choked. "Where, how?" He closed his fist around it. "I kept it, every day, even when," he stopped, voice cracking, "even when I didn't think I'd make it back." Silence pressed in around them, heavy and fragile. Liora steadied herself on the small vanity table. The cold surface grounded her. "Jalen." "What happened?" Calder said. "He said you were." Her voice collapsed. "Gone. He wanted you to think that." Jalen's tone sharpened, anger flickering beneath grief. "Because he couldn't stand that you chose me." The room tilted slightly. She gripped the edge of the table. "Chosen you?" Jalen nodded slowly. "He was obsessed with you, Liora, and jealous. I saw the signs before everything happened, but I never imagined he would." His breath shuddered. "He orchestrated it all, the accident, the disappearance, everything." A cold wave rolled through her chest. She shook her head, not in disbelief, but in horror at finally having confirmation. "Tell me everything," she whispered. Jalen took a shaky seat on the low couch, the springs groaning under his weight. He rubbed his scar with his thumb, a habit she didn't recognize, something he must have developed during the years he was gone. Liora sat opposite him, her gown shimmering like a broken constellation. He inhaled. "The night I vanished, I was heading home to you. I just bought flowers. I remember thinking you'd love them because they smelled like jasmine." His voice softened as if the memory hurt more than the wound. "A car blocked the road. I thought someone needed help." The air thickened. The soft hum of the overhead vent buzzed faintly, a backdrop to the truth unraveling. "It wasn't a stranger," Jalen continued. "It was one of Calder's men, hired, paid, prepared." Leora's nails dug into her own palm. She didn't feel it. He swallowed hard. "They grabbed me. Meowed. When I woke up, I was tied to a chair in a warehouse. Calder came to see me." Her breath left her lungs. Jalen's eyes darkened. "He didn't pretend, he didn't hide. He told me straight to my face that you deserved someone more capable, someone who could give you the life you deserved, someone like him." Leora's stomach twisted violently. "He staged my death." Jalen said hoarsely. Paid for the fake evidence. Forced one of his men to place my belongings at a crashed car site. I saw that car, Liora whispered, voice trembling. They told me it exploded, that you were gone. I know, his voice broke. He wanted you to mourn me, he wanted you vulnerable, and then he swooped in to comfort you. Liora felt sick, every memory hit her at once. Calder showing up with soup, Calder insisting she move into his penthouse for safety. Calder whispering how she needed someone strong to take care of her, Calder calling Jalen's death a tragedy fate meant to happen. Her whole body shook. Why didn't you come back sooner? Jalen's face contorted in pain. Liora, they didn't let me go. The words echoed, not gone, not missing, not dead, imprisoned. For months, he whispered, I was kept in different places. Warehouses, basements, always guarded. His voice thickened with shame. I escaped twice. They found me both times. Liora pressed a trembling hand over her mouth. A year passed, Jalen continued. Then 2, then 3, I kept trying, kept hoping. I didn't know if you were alive, if he'd hurt you, if he'd forced you into something. He shut his eyes tightly, jaw clenching. But I never stopped trying to get back to you. A tear spilled down Leora's cheek, warm and trembling. She whispered, Jalen, how did you finally escape? His expression shifted, fear mixed with defiance. One of Calder's men slipped up. He left a phone unlocked. I sent a message to a friend, someone we both trusted. They smuggled me out, hid me. Helped me survive long enough to get here. To my wedding, Liora breathed. To stop the man who tried to steal everything from us, he said quietly. A deep silence settled, swirling with revelations too heavy for the room to hold. The faint rustle of her gown was the only sound for a moment. Liora wiped her tears, but more followed, falling freely. I thought I was losing my mind, she whispered. Every time I questioned Calder, every time something didn't feel right, he told me I was imagining things. That grief made me irrational. Jalen's eyes sharpened with pain. He gaslit you. Yes. Her voice came out like a shattered whisper. He shaped my reality until I couldn't trust my own thoughts. Jalen leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You were never wrong, Liora, never. She felt those words sink into her bones, nourishing something that had been starved for years. A sliver of strength, a sliver of truth, a sliver of her own voice. What now? She whispered. Jalen looked at her with something fierce and gentle all at once. Now you know the truth, and you decide what comes next. I'm here, but I won't force anything. You've lived through hell because of him. You deserve to reclaim your life on your terms. Liora stared at him, at the scar, the dust, the mismatched shoelaces, the man who chose her again and again, even through nightmares. Her hands shook as she whispered, Calder stole my life, Jalen. And now, Jalen said quietly, you take it back. The overhead vent hummed softly, a low vibration filling the room. Her heartbeat steadied. Her breath pulled in with new purpose. For the first time in years, she felt clarity slicing through the fog. No more confusion, no more manipulation, no more fear disguised as love. She lifted her chin. Her internal voice rose with her, I wasn't crazy. My instincts were right. Calder stole my life, and now she would reclaim every piece. The house was silent when Liora entered, too silent for a wedding day. Too silent for a life that had just been ripped open. The reception hall buzzed in the distance, muffled through walls and floors, but inside Calder's penthouse office, her temporary sanctuary, everything felt cold and still. She closed the door behind her. The latch clicked like a final punctuation mark. Her silver gown shimmered faintly in the dim light from the desk lamp. It felt surreal to be wearing something so beautiful while her insides trembled with old wounds resurfacing and new truths carving themselves into her bones. She steadied her breath. The next chapter of her life wouldn't be reactive, it would be deliberate. She moved toward the large mahogany desk Calder cherished more than he cherished her. His pride and power lived here. Locked drawers, expensive pens, neat stacks of contracts, and secrets. She could feel them like a pulse beneath the wood. With slow determination, she opened the top drawer empty. Second drawer, a jumble of invoices, business cards, and yes, one of Calder's hidden phones. A sleek black device he never gave an explanation for, always kept on silent, always turned face down. Her fingers hovered over it. Do I dare? Her heartbeat answered. Yes, she turned it on. A password screen flashed, her stomach twisted, until her fingers moved on their own. His birthday. The phone unlocked, she exhaled shakily. A mixture of victory and disgust washed over her. He's so arrogant he thinks no one would ever try. Inside the phone, she found messages. Contacts, photos. She scrolled through without breathing and froze. There he was, Jalen, bound to a chair, face bruised, eyes defiant. A timestamp. 4 years ago, her lungs collapsed. A message right beneath the photo. Keep him alive until I say otherwise. No mistakes this time. Sent from Calder, her hands trembled. The room spun. This was proof, undeniable proof, not just of kidnapping but intent. Her internal voice whispered, fierce with new fire, he never expected me to find this. He never expected me to rise. She kept searching voice notes. She listened to one, Calder's voice oozing arrogance. Once it's done, make it clean. She must believe he died for real this time. A cold wave slid through her. She fought the urge to scream. Instead, she documented everything, screenshots, audio recordings. Messages forwarded to her cloud drive. Files sent to a trusted attorney she knew Calder despised for being too idealistic. She typed quickly, fingers flying with purpose she hadn't felt in years. The hum of her phone's recording app filled the room, steady and sharp like a heartbeat. Jalen waited nearby, leaning against the bookshelf. He didn't interrupt. He didn't take over. He simply watched her, quietly, respectfully, as she gathered the pieces of the truth he'd carried alone for far too long. You're doing the right thing, Jalen said softly. Liora stopped typing. She looked up at him, his dust-stained suit, his weary eyes, his scar catching the lamplight. The faint scent of dust still clung to him, her reminder of what he had survived for her. I'm scared, she admitted. I know. He took a step closer. But you're not broken, and you're not alone anymore. Her throat tightened. She turned back to the desk, the next step, the hidden drawer. She'd seen Calder open it before, thoughtlessly, assuming she'd never remember the pattern of movement. She remembered everything. She pressed under the desk, sliding her fingers along the underside until she felt the latch. A faint click echoed. The drawer popped slightly. Inside, a stack of documents, bank transfer receipts, a manila folder marked Resolve. She opened it. More photos. Her chest tightened painfully. Calder with the men who held Jalen. Calder signing off on payments. Calder next to a burned-out vehicle, the fake accident site, smirking while he thought no one watched. Her hands shook violently. Jalen stepped behind her, gently placing a steadying hand near her arm, close but not trapping her. A silent reassurance. Liora whispered, he planned everything. Jalen's voice was low but firm. And now you have the proof. She swallowed hard and continued to collect every piece, emails printed out, lists of transactions. A photo of her crying at Jalen's memorial service, taken by someone standing behind a tree, one of Calder's men. She felt sick. He documented my grief, she thought, her stomach churning. My pain was entertainment to him. Her monologue grew sharper, steadier. He thought he broke me. He has no idea what I become when I rise. She placed every document into a slim portfolio, her blood humming with purpose. Jalen watched with quiet admiration. You've changed, he said softly. No, she corrected, voice steady. I'm remembering who I was before he tried to rewrite me. She opened the final file. Inside, a contract, a premarital contract, her name at the top, Calder's signature at the bottom, legal jargon detailing the transfer of her inheritance, her late mother's estate, into his control upon marriage. She felt her heart drop. So that was the real reason he rushed the wedding. The real reason he tightened his hold on her. The real reason he silenced her doubts with kisses and whispered reassurances. Not love, money, control, ownership. The anger rose white-hot, shaking her to her core. She whispered, how many lies did he feed me while I was grieving? Jalen's jaw flexed. Too many. The room felt suffocating for a moment, thick with betrayal and revelation. The rustle of papers sounded violent in her hands. Liora inhaled slowly, grounding herself in the soft hum of the phone and the quiet rustle of her gown every time she shifted. Her next action was deliberate. She pulled out her personal notebook, the one Calder always dismissed as silly sentimental clutter, and began writing down everything. Dates, names, locations, accounts, details. Jalen whispered to her, eyes dark with painful memories. This wasn't fear anymore, this was strategy. Every word she wrote was a shard of truth meant to cut through Calder's lies. She closed the notebook with a decisive snap. Then she met Jalen's gaze and felt something inside her settle. Not peace, not happiness, but power. I know what we have to do, she said quietly. Jalen nodded once, a slow, intentional movement. What's that? Liora stood. The lamplight caught her shimmering gown as she straightened her back. We expose him, she said. Publicly, the way he always used the public against me. A steady breath filled her lungs. For every lie he told, for every year he stole, for every time he made me doubt myself, I will take everything from him. Her internal monologue deepened, heavy with certainty. He thought he broke me, but I am not fragile, I am focused. Jalen's eyes softened, proud. Then let's bring him down. Liora gathered the evidence, her gown gliding like liquid moonlight as she moved toward the door. When she opened it, she felt different, sharper, stronger. More dangerous than Calder could ever imagine. And as she stepped into the hallway, the faint rustle of papers in her hand felt like the beginning of justice. The reception hall glittered like a dream, Soft lights strung across the ceiling, crystal centerpieces glowing gold, champagne flutes lined in perfect rows. It was everything Calder wanted. A stage built for applause, a shrine to his ego. But tonight it would become something else. A battleground. Liora stood just outside the double doors, clutching the slim portfolio of evidence against her side. The faint hum of staff polishing glassware drifted through the air, muted clinks, low murmurs, the distant whir of a catering cart rolling by. Each sound sharpened her focus. She inhaled slowly. Her silver gown shimmered softly under the hallway lights, microsequins catching every shift of her breath. The fabric whispered along the marble floor as she paced once, twice, grounding herself in the rhythm. Behind her, Jalen watched quietly, leaning against the wall. He looked exhausted, eyes shadowed with the weight of survival, but he also looked alive. Focused, determined. "We have one shot," Liora whispered. Jalen nodded. "Then we make it count." Her fingers tightened around the portfolio. She had never felt more terrified or more certain. A quiet voice broke through their planning haze. Liora, me stood a few feet away, her hands trembling. She looked younger than her 29 years, round glasses slightly crooked, dark curls frizzing from stress. She had been Leora's friend since college, one of the very few people Calder never managed to isolate her from completely. Liora stepped forward. Me glanced between Liora and Jalen, swallowing hard. "I saw him, Calder, he's in the reception hall talking to the officiant. He looks angry, controlled angry, the kind that scares people." Leora's pulse jumped, but she stayed steady. "He will be more than scared soon," me blinked. "What do you need from me?" Liora hesitated only briefly. "Everything," she whispered. "I need a livestream." Me stared at her. "A livestream? Honey, this is your wedding reception." "I know," Liora said, voice steady, "and I'm going to use that." Jalen stepped forward, voice calm. "Calder thrives on spectacle, on controlling the narrative. If people are watching, really watching, he can't twist this." Me looked at him, recognition dawning. "You're alive," Jalen said softly. She covered her mouth. "Oh my God." Liora touched Me's arm gently. "I need you to record everything. Quietly, I trust you." Me hesitated only a heartbeat before nodding, grabbing her phone with slightly trembling fingers. A soft buzz of conversation echoed from behind the reception doors. Liora exhaled. "Okay, let's run the plan." They moved to a quiet corner of the hallway, the soft hum of string music seeping through the walls. The plan. Liora laid it out in precise strokes, her newfound clarity guiding every word. "First," she said, opening the portfolio, "Me will be positioned near the front close to the stage. No shaky recording, keep your phone steady and angled at Calder." Me nodded, already mentally placing herself. "Second," Liora continued, "I will act calm when I walk in, not angry, not emotional. Calder expects tears or hysteria. If I give him silence, he'll think he still has control." Jalen's jaw tightened. "He'll underestimate you. That's when people are most dangerous." Liora met his eyes. She turned to me again. "When I take the mic, start the live stream. Don't ask, don't warn, just start." Me swallowed. "Okay." Third, Liora said, "Jalen will come in only when I cue him." Jalen stiffened slightly. "What's the cue?" A pause, she answered. "A deliberate one, long enough to make every guest uncomfortable, long enough to make Calder sweat." Jalen nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of the moment. And then I reveal what he did," Liora whispered. "Piece by piece." She flipped open the portfolio. Photos of Calder with the kidnappers, audio recordings, contracts, messages. Me gasped softly each time Liora turned a page. "Liora, this is enough to bury him." Leora's voice softened. "It's enough to free me." The three of them stood in the quiet hallway for a moment, letting the plan settle into place. Then Liora felt something shift inside her, a stillness, a certainty, a cold, focused fire. Her internal monologue sharpened. "If Calder uses an audience as a weapon, then so will I." A staff member walked by, the muted clink of glass trays echoing briefly. The scent of citrus polish wafted from the hall. Leora's senses absorbed everything, anchoring her to the world so she wouldn't float away into fear. Jalen stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Once this is done, you won't have to look over your shoulder anymore." Leora's breath hitched. "I know, but I need to finish this for me. Not just for justice. Not even for you." Jalen nodded slowly. "For your freedom." She met his eyes she mourned for years, eyes she thought she'd never see filled with light again. "Yes," she whispered, "for my freedom." Me wiped her palms on her dress. Okay, I'm ready, I'll get into position." Liora squeezed her hand. "Thank you." Me's eyes softened. "Always." She slipped into the reception hall through the side door. Liora watched her disappear into the crowd, heart steadying with each step. Now it was just her and Jalen. He took a slow breath. "Liora, are you sure you're ready?" Her silver gown rustled as she straightened her spine. No, she admitted softly. But I'm determined. Jalen's expression shifted, admiration warming the edges. That's enough. The faint buzz of guests talking drifted through the cracks of the doors, anticipation, confusion, judgment. It should have broken her. But instead, it fueled her. Liora tightened her grip on the portfolio and moved toward the doors. Jalen reached gently for her hand, not to lead her but to steady her. Whatever happens in there, I'm with you, she nodded, her breath catching, but her voice was strong. I know. The setup, they cracked open the reception hall doors just enough to slip inside. The atmosphere shifted, warm gala lights glowed across the dance floor. Golden reflections shimmered across glass and silverware. Guests murmured in clusters, lips tight with brewing gossip, and at the center of the room Calder. Standing tall in his white tuxedo, bow tie perfectly straight, gold watch gleaming under the chandeliers, he looked furious, but hiding it behind charm. He was already performing, hands lifted slightly as he spoke to guests, reassuring them that everything was under control. Leora's stomach tightened. This was the man who manipulated her grief, the man who stole her future, the man who tried to erase her real husband, and he still thought he owned her. Not anymore, she told herself. He caught her eye from across the room. She was already positioned near the front, her phone lowered casually but ready. Liora walked toward Calder, the soft sound of her gown trailing behind her like a calm tide before a storm. Calder looked up. For the first time since Jalen reappeared, he seemed unsure how to greet her. Liora, he said through a tight smile. There you are, her heart thudded once. Her internal voice whispered, if Calder uses an audience as a weapon, then so will I. She stopped 3 feet from him. Calder, she said softly. We need to talk. Guests perked up. He stepped closer, whispering sharply, don't make a scene. She smiled, too calmly. I intend to. Calder's eyes widened just slightly, panic tightening beneath the arrogance. And for the first time, Liora saw true fear flicker in his composure. Everything was set, the trap was in place. And Liora, the woman he thought was fragile and lost, she was ready to strike. The grand chandeliers of the reception hall glittered overhead, casting golden halos across the polished marble floors. Liora moved slowly through the crowd, every step calculated, her silver gown glinting like shards of moonlight. Guests murmured as she passed, some tipping their heads in polite curiosity, others in open admiration. Calder's eyes followed her, a flicker of control masked behind forced calm. She inhaled deliberately, letting the soft scent of lilies drift into her awareness. It was intoxicating, almost ironic. Perfume that had once symbolized a union forged in lies now framed the stage of his impending downfall. She could feel the gentle rustle of her gown with every step, the silky whisper against her skin reminding her of who she was. Poised, powerful, and dangerous in the quietest way, Calder moved closer, his polished shoes clicking against the marble. You look beautiful, he murmured, voice smooth, practiced, but Liora caught the tremor, the tiny quiver of unease beneath the surface. She didn't respond. Silence was her weapon tonight. He reached for her hand, warm and smooth, and she allowed it to rest there only for a heartbeat. The ticking of the grand clock overhead counted down their shared history, the stolen years, the lies, the manipulations. Calder smiled, confident. He believed he still had her, that she would submit to the narrative he had carefully crafted over years. Leora's internal monologue was a steel blade behind her calm exterior. He thinks I'm the old Liora, the obedient Liora, the one who would accept his control. He's already lost. She let her eyes sweep the room slowly, scanning for me, who was discreetly filming near the front. Every guest, every whispered conversation, every curious glance was a note in the symphony of exposure she was orchestrating. This wasn't fear, it was precision. Calder leaned closer, lowering his voice to a possessive murmur. Just 1 more hour, he said, and it'll all be perfect. Leora's smile was gentle, almost imperceptible, but it held a razor's edge. Yes, she said softly. 1 more hour. Her gaze returned to the glinting portfolio tucked under her arm. Proof of his deception, his crimes, the years he stole from her, every detail documented. This was her leverage, and it would become his public unmasking. Guests shifted around them, unaware of the storm quietly gathering. Liora allowed Calder's hand to linger for a moment longer than necessary, feeling the smooth chill of his skin against hers, before slowly withdrawing it. The small act was deliberate, creating a flicker of doubt in his otherwise unshakable performance. Jalen stood in the shadows, every muscle coiled like a spring. He observed her, ready to step onto the stage at her cue. His dust-stained navy suit and mismatched laces made him look like a ghost of truth incarnate, a living contradiction to Calder's polished arrogance. The soft hum of conversation, the distant clink of glasses, the ticking of the reception hall clock, All these mundane sounds contrasted with the undercurrent of tension Liora felt in her bones. Each sound sharpened her focus, anchoring her to the plan she had meticulously constructed. She allowed Calder to believe he still held the narrative. She laughed lightly at one of his comments to a guest, letting the sound float through the room like a melody of compliance. Every step, every gesture, every word was designed to reinforce his illusion of control. Her internal monologue reinforced her purpose. He sees the obedient Liora. He doesn't see the Liora who has spent years gathering evidence, who knows every detail, who will strip him of his facade before everyone he thought would cheer him on. Liora stopped near the stage, tilting her head slightly as if considering a toast. The air was thick with anticipation, though no one yet realized it. She smoothed her gown with a practiced motion, letting the microsequins catch the light in a quiet, deliberate flash. Calder's lips tightened, sensing a shift he couldn't yet name. He leaned in again, whispering, "You'll ruin this moment." She smiled softly, eyes calm, almost serene. "I'm saving it." Me, camera steady in hand, signaled subtly. Jalen moved forward slightly, unseen by most, like a shadow preparing to emerge into the light. The room was ready, though no one knew it. The audience, the predator, the prey, all poised for the inevitable reveal. And Liora, the quiet storm at the center of it all, she was calm, controlled, and utterly untouchable. Her internal voice whispered once more, "Steel under silk. Let him think he still has me. Let him enjoy his illusion. The moment he realizes it's gone, that's when he falls." The reception hall hummed with anticipation, the chandeliers casting a soft glow across the polished marble floors. Guests clinked glasses, laughter bubbling in rehearsed cadence, the air thick with the scent of lilies and subtle perfumes. To anyone watching, it was the perfect wedding celebration. But Liora saw it differently. Every murmured conversation, every curious glance, every polite smile was a thread in a tapestry of deception she was about to unravel. She stepped onto the stage, her silver gown shimmering like starlight against the warm golden glow of the chandeliers. The gentle rustle of fabric echoed softly with each step, a delicate sound contrasted by the electricity that surged through her veins. Her heart pounded, but not with fear. It was a steady, rhythmic beat, the pulse of purpose. Calder noticed her ascent immediately. He straightened, bow tie perfectly aligned, gold watch gleaming. His smile was tight, controlled, but the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes betrayed him. He had trained the world to see Liora as fragile, obedient, malleable. Tonight she would prove him spectacularly wrong. She reached the microphone, the polished metal cool against her palms. The hum of the PA system buzzed softly, vibrating in tandem with her resolve. Her voice, when it finally emerged, trembled, not with fear but with undeniable authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, each word deliberate, measured, commanding attention. "I have a confession, or perhaps an unveiling." The crowd shifted, some curious, others confused. Calder's gaze darkened, the careful composure of a man used to control fraying at the edges. From the side of the stage, Me discreetly started the livestream. Cameras tilted subtly to capture the unfolding scene without drawing attention. Phones lifted as guests instinctively began recording, unaware that this was the moment history would be made. Liora continued, her voice gaining strength. "For years, I mourned a man I believed I had lost. I grieved, I cried, I believed the life I had was over. But the truth is far more complicated." A faint rustle of papers came from her portfolio as she opened it, pulling out images, contracts, and messages. The audience leaned in subconsciously, drawn to her composure and the quiet weight of the revelations she was about to share. Then she gestured subtly. A figure emerged from the shadows, Jalen. His dust-stained navy suit and weathered appearance made him seem almost spectral against the gleaming opulence of the hall. Gasps rippled like breaking glass as recognition struck. Jalen's voice joined hers, steady and clear. "I am alive," he said. The room froze. Alive because of her, and alive despite him. Calder's face drained of color. His carefully curated aura of power faltered as whispers began to spread. His guests were watching, not cheering but questioning. Liora took a deep breath, letting the silence linger. She let the weight of the moment settle on Calder's shoulders. "Calder Voss," she said, her voice slicing through the murmurs, "you orchestrated my grief. You stole years from me. You staged my husband's death, thinking no one would uncover your crimes. But here we are." A chorus of murmurs swelled. Phones whirred as guests captured every word, every gesture, every revelation. Calder opened his mouth, but no sound came. His gold watch glinted in the chandelier light, a symbol of wealth, power, and arrogance, but powerless against the truth now exposed. Jalen stepped forward, his scarred jaw tight with emotion. For 4 years I survived, I waited, and now, his eyes met Leora's. We reveal everything. Liora laid out the proof methodically: contracts, audio recordings, photos, all tangible evidence of Calder's manipulation, control, and crimes. Each revelation landed like a hammer on a fragile facade. Guests gasped audibly, some recoiling, some murmuring in shock. Calder lunged instinctively, his control shattered. Security moved swiftly, tackling him before he could regain composure. The echo of struggle filled the room, mingling with the sound of dozens of phones recording, capturing every detail. Calder's polished persona lay in ruin, the opulent hall now a theater of exposure. Leora's chest heaved slightly, but her eyes were steady. Her gaze swept across the room, noting expressions: shock, disbelief, relief, admiration. Every witness had seen the truth unfold. Every lie he had fed them unraveled in real time. Her internal monologue ran like a quiet anthem: this is for every night I cried. For every lie. For every piece of myself he tried to own. This is the moment I reclaim everything. Jalen's hand brushed lightly against hers, not to comfort but to anchor. They were allies, survivors, united in the face of betrayal. Calder struggled in the grip of security, shouting accusations, trying to salvage dignity. But no one listened. The audience had seen too much, recorded too much. Every gasp, every murmur, every shocked glance had turned against him. Leora's lips curved slightly. She let a deep, steadying breath fill her, feeling the rush of liberation. She had orchestrated this with precision, and now, with Calder defeated and exposed, she was no longer the woman he tried to break. The hall was alive with whispers, phones still capturing the aftermath, and the scent of lilies, strong and pungent, clung to the air, reminding her that even in beauty, the truth could pierce through the deception. She turned toward Jalen, eyes meeting his. No words were needed. The years stolen, the grief endured, the pain carried, all transformed into this moment of justice, undeniable and public. For the first time in what felt like eternity, Liora felt a profound clarity. Calder could no longer dictate her story, her image, or her life. The stage, once his, now belonged to her. Rain tapped softly against the tall windows of the now quiet reception hall, a gentle percussion that mirrored the calm settling over Leora's mind. The golden chandeliers, once a dazzling distraction, now cast soft, reflective pools of light across the polished marble floor. The scent of lilies lingered, sweet and heavy, mingling with the faint aroma of spilled champagne and polished wood, a lingering trace of the chaos that had unfolded hours earlier. The room was nearly empty, the crowd having dispersed after witnessing Calder's dramatic exposure and arrest. Only a few staff remained, carefully collecting glasses and resetting tables, their movements quiet, respectful, almost reverent. The residual energy of the confrontation still clung to the space like a taut string, a memory that refused to fade. Liora stood near the center of the hall, her silver gown brushing the floor with a soft whisper as she moved. Every microsequin caught the light in subtle bursts, reflecting the slow exhale of tension that had built over years. Her heart still beat quickly, but now it was a rhythm of release, not fear. She could feel the smooth silk of her gown under her fingers as she gently brushed it, grounding herself in the reality she had fought so hard to reclaim. Jalen approached quietly, his dust-stained navy suit a stark contrast to the opulence around them. The scuffs on his shoes and the thin scar along his jaw were reminders of the years stolen, the trials endured. Yet he stood tall, his presence steady, as if survival itself had carved strength into every line of his body. "You okay?" he asked softly, his voice low enough to be private amidst the echoing emptiness. Liora nodded, her warm brown eyes reflecting both sorrow and newfound resolve. "I am," she said, her voice steady. "I've never been more myself." The memory of the last several hours played vividly in her mind, the arrival of the man she thought was lost, Calder's crumbling facade, the public exposure. She remembered the gasps, the recordings, the sound of security tackling Calder as he tried to salvage his control. She could still hear the whir of phones capturing every truth she had fought to reveal. Her internal monologue ran quietly but sharply: "This is mine now. Not him, not the lies, not the years he tried to steal. Mine." Jalen reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I wish it hadn't taken so long." Liora smiled faintly, a mixture of sadness and relief. "We lost years, but they're behind us. What matters now is what we do with what's ahead." The rain outside intensified slightly, a soft patter against the tall windows. It was soothing, rhythmic, a natural cleansing after the storm of deceit and betrayal. Liora felt her gown shift as she inhaled deeply, savoring the sound, the scent, the gentle movement of air through the hall. She glanced around, noting the quiet aftermath, the empty chairs, the scattered rose petals, the faint echo of footsteps that once belonged to guests now long gone. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of control in her own hands, the possibility of a life rebuilt, untainted by manipulation or fear. Her thoughts turned to Jalen, standing patiently beside her. They spoke quietly now, not of grand plans or elaborate schemes, but of fear-faced, love reclaimed, and the uncertain path forward. Each word they exchanged was soft, honest, laden with the authenticity that had been absent in so many years. "I never thought I'd see you again," Liora admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "And yet here you are, and here I am." Jalen's lips curved in a gentle smile. "We're here together, that's what counts." The rain continued to patter against the windows, the soft, steady sound filling the space between words, thoughts, and memories. Liora allowed herself a deep exhale, feeling the tension of the past years slowly release with each heartbeat. Her internal monologue resonated with clarity and hope. "My life starts now. Not with Calder, not even with Jalen. With me. Finally, completely with me." She took a small step forward, the soft rustle of her gown echoing in the near-empty hall. Every sound, the distant drip of rain, the subtle shifting of papers, the muted clink of glasses being stacked, was a testament to survival, to reclaiming what was lost, to moving forward with dignity and strength. Jalen reached for her hand again, this time not to steady her but to walk beside her into the unknown. And she accepted it, not out of need, not out of dependency, but as a choice. A choice to embrace possibility, to trust in the life she was creating, and to honor every part of herself that had been silenced for too long. The hall seemed to breathe with them, the soft light, the lingering scent of lilies, the gentle patter of rain, a quiet witness to the beginning of a new chapter. Liora lifted her gaze to the windows, letting the rain wash over her vision like a promise. And in that still, fragile moment, she knew, she was free. Did you like the story? If you enjoyed this tale of resilience, revenge, and redemption, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that pull at your heartstrings and keep you on the edge of your seat. With love and respect.